It's here. It's here. Woo! It's here. Hey review family, keep it tight, my name is Jay Morse Review Guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video, and in this one I'm going to be doing an album review for Born of Osiris' new album, The Simulation. So I feel like before we get into this album, I really gotta talk about some of the background, because that is pretty crucially important to this overall album. So Born of Osiris, they were formed in 2003, they are from Illinois, and they were raised primarily on deathcore. This is their 5th studio-length album. They really rose to prominence back in 2011 when they released The Discovery, particularly because of Jason Richardson's guitar playing. This was a very nice mix of progressive metalcore, djent, and deathcore that went into a magnum opus that everyone pretty much unanimously agrees they have not been able to step up to since. Jason Richardson left the band and he joined Chelsea Grin. In 2013, Born of Osiris released Tomorrow We Die Alive, which was, to a lot of people, a lot less enjoyable by the band's standards. Now personally, I don't think it's that bad. I really do enjoy Tomorrow We Die Alive, but it definitely felt like something was missing, and no one really felt like it was as good as The Discovery. But they gave the band a chance because they thought, well, maybe the band is going to do something different. Well, in 2015, they dug the grave deeper for a lot of people by releasing Soul Sphere, which people said was even worse than Tomorrow We Die Alive and missed the spark and missed the mark even more than Tomorrow We Die Alive did. But the times they are a-changin'. In 2017, they released The Eternal Reign for the 10-year anniversary of their first studio release, which was an EP by the name of The New Reign, back in 2007. And since they were playing deathcore stuff, even though it had the whiff and the better production value that new Born of Osiris has, it did sound a lot like their older stuff because it was their older stuff. And that brings us to The Simulation. So the production is more clean than it really has ever been. This has to be one of the most sanitary albums that I have heard by Sumerian Records, period. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of like Cattle Decapitation or Error or something, where I feel like it works for the band. I think that it works very well, especially considering how futuristic the whole theme of the band is. And I'm gonna be real with you guys, I don't think that if you're looking for The Discovery Part 2, if you were like, is this album going to be another version of The Discovery? Is it going to be amazing? Is it going to be better than their other albums? It's not. It's not The Discovery. But in my opinion, if you didn't like Soul Sphere and Tomorrow We Die Alive, I think this might be the next closest thing you're gonna get. And I think it's also worth mentioning this album's 25 minutes, 40 seconds, 8 tracks, and it's going to be the first album that they're gonna release in 2019. Yeah, it's a double album, but at least this is better than Between the Buried and Me's Automata cycle. So the Accursed, it starts off this track listing with a really interesting intro, but I gotta say I am super iffy on the chorus, and that is one of my main complaints of this album, is it doesn't feel like they nail the choruses all the time. There are some moments, specifically one that I'll get to later on in this review, that I think they do, but I feel like for the most part the choruses sound like a bad answer to Architects. It sounds like they're trying to be like Sam Carter, but not as good as Sam Carter. But I do like the really nice drum build-up before each chorus, and I think that it really does have a nice chuggy type of verse structure that gives way to kind of djent bliss, makes a djent boy scream! Has a very neat ending, and I gotta say that overall on this track I do like how it is mixed. I think that it has a nice mix of vocals. I think that the vocals across this entire track are very versatile, and this whole album seemed to really show a lot more technical proficiency when it comes to the vocal front than some of their previous albums did. Remember when I was talking about deathcore and The Discovery? Disconnectome? Favorite track on the album. 100% one of the best Born of Osiris tracks that I have ever heard, period, counting everything that came before this. Disconnectome is an amazing track. This sounds like deathcore. This has an epic intro similar to Machine, my favorite track off of Tomorrow We Die Alive, and then it just breaks way into just growled and shrieked deathcore vocals and pounding drums and really deathcore inspired instrumentation when it comes to the guitar front. Strained shrieks that remind me of older Born of Osiris. A fantastic symphonic djent solo in this track, as well as some 10 out of 10 pacing throughout the entire thing. Reanimate! It is eerie and epic at the end, super ominous. God, I want to listen to this track again right now. It is so good. One of my favorite Born of Osiris tracks, period. Psycho Heroes of Tragedy got a music video if you want to go check that out. It's pretty interesting. I really do enjoy the video for it. And this probably is my second favorite track on the album for the most part. It features some very cool synths going from ear to ear that kind of meld with the guitars later on in the track. I am a bit cliche iffy when it comes to the chorus because this does feel a bit tropish. It does feel a little bit stereotypical, and I'm still eerie on how the choruses sound in terms of the vocals. I don't think it nails it very well. I just don't like the chorus, but I do got to say, for one thing, that some of the verses do have some deathcore inspired vocals, some kind of shrieky vocals that remind me of some of their earlier work. This has some very tight instrumentation work, and it sounds a little bit like Soul Sphere overall, which could be a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. Under the Gun is Soul Sphere, but done better. God, if the songs on Soul Sphere would have sounded like this, I don't think anyone would have complained. I love the screaming on this chorus. This is the one time that I was talking about earlier that I think they nail the chorus. The chorus sounds so catchy, but still brutal, still heavy, a really good chorus. I love the fantastic guitar and synth melodies that litter themselves across this whole track, although the verses can seem a bit Born of Osiris status quo from the instrumentation to the vocals especially. There's nothing that's really blowing me away when it comes to the verses, but the second chorus gives way to this beautiful synth type of breakdown that goes into guitars, and it really asks some amazing questions through the lyrics. Specifically, one that stood out to me are we moving forwards or backwards? And especially in this day and age, you can't help but wonder if that's true. Recursion is an interlude. It's kind of ominous. It kind of sounds like machinery. It's only about 57 seconds or something like that, 56, 57 seconds, something around that. It's not even a minute long, and I think it's a little bit, like, unneeded. I mean, I understand what it's doing. It's taking you into the other leg of the track listing, but for an album of this length being fairly short, I don't think that this was really necessary. It sounds like kind of the background music from a horror movie soundtrack, but I just didn't feel like it was needed for the most part. So I guess you could say this is one of my least favorite tracks, if you can even count it as a track. I mean, it takes up time, so I guess you can. Analogs in a Cell was teased, and I didn't listen to the tease because I didn't want to, but I didn't like this track all that much. It has some interesting ideas on it. I do like the fact that some singing was incorporated on this track, which is very interesting. I must say, I do like that. I love the gutturals on this track. I really do like the gutturals, and some of the lyricism is pretty interesting, and I do genuinely like the gutturals and the singing portions, but for the most part, this is just super chuggy. It's super kind of status quo. There's nothing that's really standing out to me besides some of those really interesting gutturals and some singing being incorporated, but other than that, for the length and for the track, compared to some of the others standing shoulder to shoulder, I don't really think this is one of the strongest tracks on the album, unfortunately. Silence the Echo, another single that was released, the only other single that was released, 4 minutes and 31 seconds, pure djent bliss. Great start. It is super ominous, super mechanical sounding. It makes you feel like you are about to be probed, in a good way if that's even possible. But hear me out. This riff from the start sounds like Within the Ruins. I'm an avid Within the Ruins listener, and I can say that. This sounds ripped straight out of, like, Phenomena by Within the Ruins, or even, like, Halfway Human. And I know someone pointed out that some of the middle riffs kind of sound like Fracture from Veil of Maya off their album False Idol, which I can hear that too, so I don't know if this is just a culmination cesspool of other influences, but I can't deny how pretty cool this track is and how heavy and interesting and chuggy it is from start to finish, and the djent really does catch me off guard a lot of times and really does show their technical proficiency that Born of Osiris has been known for, even when there are releasing albums that people don't really like as much. I don't think you can deny that they're good at what they do. One Without the Other really does end the album off on a pretty good note. I think that it is a good track for the end of the album. It really is genuinely beautiful at parts, and it mixes heavy and not heavy and kind of beautiful harmonies. I gotta say that this track really does present, and it does feel kind of like an epic closer to the first part of this. Really good lyrics on this album. I really do have to commend those. Some very chaotic production, especially near the start when it's kind of going from like screams to growls and stuff like that. Really do like how they are employing trying more and more different vocal techniques, that they usually are just kind of sticking to certain ones for whole tracks. I like that they're experimenting a little bit more on this album. Overall, this album isn't perfect. It's not blowing me away, but there are some genuine parts that kind of do blow me away, and I can see a lot of stuff that people would find not good about this album, and I could see people comparing this to Soulsphere and Tomorrow We Die Live, but those people are kind of stuck in 2011 still thinking that they're going to release The Discovery Part 2 and Jason Richardson's going to pop back up out of nowhere and stuff like that. This is a new dawn for Born of Osiris, if that isn't like the case already, and if it isn't apparent, I guess is the right way to say it, and I think that this is a pretty good album all in all, and there are some very interesting things that are being worked into this album, and overall, I definitely enjoyed a lot more of it than I didn't, and I gotta say, I'm gonna give this album an 8 out of 10. And now it's time to wait for the second part. Nah, I'm just kidding, you guys can go. Thank you guys for watching this video so much. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, comment down below what you thought of this album if you've listened to it, and subscribe to the channel and smash that notification bell to be notified of future uploads. It helps me out a lot, and I'll talk to you guys next time. But until then, my name is J Morse Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.